scarves. Come to the booth and we'll give T-shirts. Nobody wants a scarf?
Everybody's got, no, it's not nobody wants them. Everybody's got them. Who doesn't have a scarf? Okay, give those two people a scarf. Just for showing up. Who else don't have a scarf either? You have one in the back. Oh, you need one too?
All right,
okay.
Here.
This is the prize for showing up to our talk.
All right. There's one more. Who was the other person?
There's 2 more. 3 more.
Here. That's it. We're all out of scarves.
Oh.
Yay.
Sorry.
Finally.
Actually, I think
Oh, she's got more! Oh, God. All right.
Oh, you didn't raise your hand high before. Stickers.
We have stickers, too, afterwards. We'll give you stickers.
Someone left them upstairs.
You left them in the other room.
In the room.
Yeah.
What other room?
Take them.
The workshop room?
2 minutes.
1 minute.
Let's go. I am wait for us. We're going for a t-shirt.
We'll start without you. Then we'll make up funny names for them.
Yes. Yeah, what's your name for Jorge? The Mexican?
Yeah.
El Bandito? Mariachi brother?
Yeah, Merrick is the Mexican.
Okay. Guys, please take your seats. We will start in a minute. I just want to tell you a few last things from the organizational part. So this is the last talk, so please enjoy it, be excited, and you can see like it will be probably quite a show, so I'm quite looking forward to it. Hope you too. After this, there will be the final competition and the closing at the room upstairs, D105, I believe it's the number. So please join us for that as well. And that will be all from my side, so enjoy, have a nice time.
She did a great job organizing the whole day. Thank you very much. So, we're here, and you're all here because you just love Developer Evangelists, and we don't need to be mic'd up because most of us can talk pretty dang loud. But first thing I just want to clear up, even though Will Foster just did an awesome session, no monkey suits are required to be a Developer Evangelist, okay? So today we're going to kind of run this as an Ask Us Anything within reason.
Okay, so that within reason part, given that who we are, that reason is a very small.
It's the last.
The universe of acceptable questions is quite large.
Okay. So first what I'm going to do is going to ask each of us to, starting with Ryan on the end, because he's the tallest, that's why he's sitting at the end of the stage, so it makes us all kind of look uniform, but we're not. So I ask Ryan to tell what you evangelize about around OpenShift and a little bit about your background.
So I'm from Oakland, California, which is we consider the capital of the Node.js empire, and I focus on JavaScript and Node as my specialty within the OpenShift team.
Okay, and
Wait, what other projects did you work on before coming to Red Hat? I think that's actually interesting to the audience.
Yeah, I actually previously I worked at Second Life. Has anyone heard of Second Life? Virtual Worlds. Okay, I was a Linden Lab employee, and after that I worked at a company called Eventbrite. That was they sell tickets online, and so I was their first developer advocate for Eventbrite. So if you're interested in being a developer advocate, start within your own company. Promote your APIs, whatever you have, and that's how I got my job experience that qualified me to join this team.
Jorge.
What was the question? I just came.
All right, and he really did just come onto the team recently, so
Yeah.
he's not quite our newest one, but tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a developer.
He is from Mexico, by the way.
Yeah, I'm from Mexico.
The Mexico that's in Europe.
Southern Europe, yeah. So the Spanish Mexico. I joined the team 6 months ago, something like that. I've been in Red Hat for 2 years as a consultant, so I'm bringing real expertise to the team. I'm more on the enterprise side, so I usually not lead that much with, or at least up to now, with developers from external, but more from users, consumers of our products. And I don't have any other hobbies or backgrounds or side projects, so I lied in my interview, and I got the job.
And our Chexican.
Mexican, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm local here. I joined the team.
Your name?
My name, Marek Ilan. So you see by the name that I'm local. I joined the team. It will be 1 month. In 1 month, 4 years. So I'm 4 years on the team. He hired me. I'm not sure why. I think I was very active in the communities. I was active with open source. I did Rails engineering. I did Rails consultancy, Ruby consultancy, etc., etc. And yeah.
And he may get fired if he ever wears a collared shirt again. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with this today.
I'm sorry, I had some private business before, so I just came here for the session. So should I say, what was the...
That's good enough.
Give
We'll
me
go
your
to the next.
My specialty, Ruby, Rails, probably.
Yeah. Okay. And Graham, who is our newest developer advocate, we call them
Not
developer
chronologically on
evangelists.
this earth, but
Not-
newest on this team.
Yeah. One with the least amount of hair on his head.
Graham Dumbleton. I've actually come all the way from Sydney in Australia to get here. So yes, I've been with you Red Hat since July-ish. Although I thought how I've been on the holidays for so much of that time it seems. I came previously from a company called New Relic, where I was basically doing Python development on their agent for the monitoring system. And after doing programming for so many years, I was just sick of it, and I knew some of these guys. I knew what OpenShift was all about. Got a big interest in web application deployment in Python, and I basically said I want to work there. And I knocked on their door and kicked it down and got myself in.
And what was that little project that you worked on? It had to do with whiskey?
No.
So how many of you have heard of Mod Whiskey in the Apache? Really? That's it? He's the author on Mod Whiskey for Apache, which is probably the most used.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but for the last 10 years?
Yeah.
7.
Okay, last 7 years was the main way people wrote in Python.
All right.
All right, so I am Grant Shipley. I have the unfortunate job of managing this group of people that drive me insane and crazy. I started my career as a Java developer at a company called Caldera. Anyone heard of Caldera? I was one of the 3 people responsible for the Linux lawsuits, if you remember that. After Caldera, I went to work at a company called Novell, where I worked on the SUSE installer. So I wrote part of that for SUSE Enterprise Server. Came to Red Hat as a principal software engineer to convert all of Red Hat's legacy Perl code to Java. And then I came over to this new project we were creating called OpenShift, and I wanted to try something new, so I decided to be a developer evangelist, and then we grew, and I ended up being the manager somehow. So, yeah.
He's actually been, you know how? He's been here the longest.
I have.
How many years now have you been at Red Hat?
10, something like that.
I like
And
that
then
time.
he's the oldest member of the event. In terms of team age, he's the oldest member on our team. I'm Steve. Who's Steve? You want to remember the last name? My background is I actually have a master's in forestry, a PhD in ecology, and as part of my PhD work, I wrote a lot of simulations, and I ran the computer lab for my ecology department. I then went to Yale, where I did internal IT projects for Yale, where I would build websites, design databases for faculty members. And so then after that, I got tired of just doing that, and I became a developer evangelist at ESRI. It's the Microsoft of the GIS world, spatial stuff, and that was about 10 years ago. So I've been a developer evangelist for about 10 years. And I joined this team. After that, I was a developer evangelist at Jakarta. Has anybody heard of Jakarta? The LBS company. They were just recently acquired by Uber. I left before that, and I'm thankful. And then I worked for LinkedIn for 3 months, because that'll be an interesting story if anybody wants to know. I was a developer evangelist at LinkedIn for only 3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Because once the stocks actually get close to vesting, it becomes very hard to quit. So I wanted to quit before I got hooked, and became miserable. And so then I joined Red Hat. I'm here a month longer than Merrick.
Cool. And I'm Diane Mueller. I am the community manager for OpenShift and the developer evangelist. And so my background, I'm the oldest on the team and the only woman. We're working on that. And I came from a small startup company called ActiveState. Any of you ever use ActiveState, Python, Komodo, and all those kinds of things? I was the product manager there and did a lot of R&D work. And I was the gal that convinced them to create a fork of Cloud Foundry and turn it into Staccato, and did all of that work. And I worked on that project, the Cloud Foundry, the competing project to.
So it's all your fault.
I'm from the other side. And then I got, tired of some of the crap that was going on around in the Cloud Foundry community and wanted to go work in a real open source world, and came over to the red side and started working on OpenShift. And I've been here almost 3 years now doing that and very happily being a lot more open.
Aren't you the author of some XML stuff or something?
I worked on an XML standard called XBRL, so all really boring accounting stuff. But it's used globally now in the US at the SEC, in China, all across Europe. You can blame me for some of the most complex XML ever written in the entire world and still being written for really boring stuff like corporate reportings, all kinds of filings and things like that. So I worked on that. I came from a company that was once called SoftQuad. I worked on a product called XMetal. Anybody here know what XMetal is? XML editors, yeah. I did that. That company was acquired by Corel, that was then acquired by another small company called Blast Radius, and acquired by a company in Japan called Just Systems. I've been around, so I was at the same desk the entire time. It just changed business cards. But so I did a lot of XML work before that, and during some of that I did a lot of Python. So you'll know me on Twitter as Python DJ, and if you're following me, I'm sorry. And you'll see pictures of my dog and unicorns and a lot of OpenShift messaging. So that's sort of my background. I've been around for a very long time. My very, very first job outside of university was at Nike, the sporting shoe people. I did a lot of CAD/CAM work and 3D design. And on the side, I run at GetMakered Labs, which is a mobile makerspace. And so ask me about that afterwards, and I'll be very passionate about teaching kids how to do 3D design. So that's what I wanted you all to do. I wanted you to introduce yourselves, and this is Ask Me Anything. I figured I'd seed it with a question for our fearless leader. What is the role? Because we always debate this in our club. We have just been here for a solid week in boot camp, getting training, figuring out our planning for the next year. So we've been drinking a lot of really good beer here in Brno, but we all have different opinions about what the role is, but we should hear from our leader first.
So for me, the role is to get developers excited about new technology and how they can use it in their projects. We're not salesmen, we're not marketing, we're actually there to help developers do something, right? And so in order to do that, we actually have to know how to do it ourselves. So a lot of people think of Developer Evangelists as kind of just talking heads, and that's actually not what we are. We actually go in and help developers with code most of the time. It's what we do.
So I made a video about this. It's called The Feeding of and Husbandry of Developer Evangelists. If you search on this, don't do it now, please. And you look on YouTube, that'll be the video where I gave my whole entire opinion. I mean, my basic opinion about what we are, our role is to be a bridge, right? We're not any one thing, and yet we're pieces of a lot of things. So we are part marketing. This is where I disagree with Grant. We are part marketing. Like, we get up and give talks, and they don't necessarily, sometimes I go to conferences and I'm giving a talk that is almost purely a marketing talk. It's not going to be, it still has to have information in it, but it's not necessarily like when Graham gives a talk on Python, Graham sometimes goes so incredibly deep that I could never go. But I am talking to the marketing department, talking about what swag works, right? Everybody know what swag is? Right? That's swag, right? The scarves are swag. And so sometimes when you see it shows, you can tell when there's a developer marketing versus non-developer marketing. How many of you, let's try to think of what's non-developer marketing swag?
Maybe the coffee cup.
No, I like the coffee cups.
You like a coffee
Yeah,
cup?
coffee cups works because they're actually really, like the squeezy toys? You know those? How many of you pick them up and then almost never use them? Right? Like that to me is a waste. But if you I wanted to get Nerf guns. Right? That's good developer marketing.
Much more interactive.
So we're also sales, but not really sales. So we need to talk to the sales people. We're also engineering, but not really engineering. So OpenShift engineers, raise your hand. The 2, 3, yeah? What am I really good at? You can say it, be honest. Complaining. Bitching. So that is there's a lot of times we're called advocates and not evangelists. And the reason why is because we go to shows. These guys sit at their desk all the time and just code. We actually go to shows, try to get developers to use the product. We watch them fail, and then we come back and complain at these people the whole time. This is crap. How can we release it like this? We should be, not that OpenShift has any flaws.
It's perfect.
It's perfect because of the complaining we did very early on in the process. And then we also meet with PMs as well. So Mike, what else am I really good at? Yeah, because what our job is with the PMs is to say, your roadmap sucks. This isn't helping my users. We're developers, so we bitch about what developers need. If someone wants to bitch about what sysadmin needs, or enterprise sysadmins need, I don't care, someone else can do that. I'm on behalf of my users, I'm advocating back into the company.
I think that the key word was the bridge and the connector, because OpenShift, being a platform as a service, touches on a whole swath of communities. And so while we're presenting and trying to connect developers to OpenShift and get them all excited about this and get that feedback, we're also touching on Kubernetes, Docker, OpenStack. So you'll see us show up at OpenStack summits or KubeCon and other places or we did a lot of work with MongoDB on V3. So we're all over the map. So we're not necessarily experts on any one thing. A lot of us are spread a little thin sometimes. So I think it's the feedback loop that's really important that we play to the PMs and the engineering teams, but it's also all that cross-community collaboration. So when OpenStack's about to do something new with Neutron, we get heads up, or we try and demo it and it fails.
I don't try to demo it. I hate that stuff. But Ryan, like the things that we're saying here, just so that you're clear, this is not particularly the OpenShift team. This is what it means to be a developer evangelist. So how many of you like to sit with your head down all the time and write code all day? Okay, you are not going to become a developer evangelist. You can't do that. You can be good at that, but you can't do that. Like Ryan, when you were at Eventbrite, you were doing some of the same tasks, right, that we do now.
Yeah, definitely. Getting feedback. I was actually within that company, part of the marketing team, but organizationally, I was a part of the marketing team for a while because they didn't have anywhere else to stick me within the company. They also, I moved over to the product management team for a while. So depending on how your company is structured, you may get put within one of these other camps, right? But it still should be your duty to advocate for the needs of the developers, the needs of the users, and give that feedback back to the product team.
So I think we didn't actually answer the question though of what we do. So what do? We give conference talks. We write sample applications. We write reference applications for the product. We give trainings, workshops, write blog posts. We have to have an active Twitter following. We have to be influential in some type of community. Like Steve is pretty well known in the geospatial. I'm pretty well known in mobile, Graham, Python, et cetera, et cetera. And so we kind of have to be respected in the communities that we're targeting, right? So like if you asked me to go and talk about Node.js, I wouldn't go, right? I would have Ryan. So we build teams around different interest areas. But that's mainly what we do. Conference talks, blog posts, stuff like that.
And use the product.
Essentially, you have to be deep in two technologies. One is the one that you own, like OpenShift. One is the other one, the community that you work with. And then you have to be spread on so many other technologies, see what's happening in Python, see what's happening there, see what's happening there, all the emerging technologies. Have to look out into the future. But two the technologies always have to, at least two have to be deep. Should be.
Yeah. To a certain level. Like you want to go?
Yeah. I wanted to interrupt you because
That's it. You're going to have to just stand in front of me.
and also one important thing is that we socialize a lot. We need to socialize and listen to the people, to the community so we like to hang around, we like to go for beers, talking with the developers, because at the end, developers, what they do is the kind of things, they probably don't like to talk to the real marketing guys, to the PMs or whatever, because that kind of engaging with them, it's really difficult. We are really easy people to treat with, sometimes not. If you go with Steve, you will want to go to the hotel very soon. But if you go with people like us, probably you will get.
And you can tell who's been on the team longer based on our size because of all the time we spend out talking with you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to actually disagree with Jorge just a little bit
No.
because one, I have to.
Really has to.
That's what I do. But two, how many of you are actually here because you're thinking about wanting to become a developer evangelist? Nobody? Come on. Then why so then why are you here?
Now that they understand what's required.
I like writing code. The only thing is, we're not all extroverts. So Jorge makes it sound like we're extroverts. And I seem like an extrovert right now on stage, right? Because I talk a lot and I'm very outgoing, and at the booth I'm very outgoing. But when I'm going to go home after this week, after this week, I'm going to sleep for an entire week. And I won't want to meet people, and I won't want to do anything. I'm just going to go on a walk in the woods with my dog. So I turn it on when I get on stage, and it's not that I'm lying, right? It's not like I turn it on and start lying, but I turn on the persona, and then I turn the persona off when I actually am by myself. And if I keep doing this for this week I'm done. Like last night, Jorge and Ryan wanted to go out drinking, and I was like, no, and I just went back to my room and just watched YouTube videos and laughed a lot. Like that's all I could manage at the end of the week. So don't think you have to be an extrovert to do this.
And I hate people all the time.
It's true.
It's true. Totally true.
And I also hate traveling. So I hate people and I hate traveling, and that's why I got this job.
And that's why he's our manager. Yeah. So,
And that's actually something else we do a lot. Travel.
yeah.
So one of the things that's required with this position, no matter what, is travel. You should like, at least at some level, to travel if you're going to do this. And then, depending on the company, we travel generally less than salespeople and SAs, I would say, and consultants, right? But we travel way more than engineers. I wish engineers would travel more with us because they're actually really good to have in the booth because we get lots of deep technical questions, plus they also get to see direct feedback on their product rather than just hearing it from us. But we travel anywhere between a quarter to almost a half of time, but it's not all year long, it's in bursts usually.
Yeah, in the summer
Your
we
longest
travel
trip?
every week.
Your longest trip?
My longest trip was 3.5 weeks, I think. I was on the road.
I worked every day for 28 days.
Okay.
My longest trip is probably about 2.5 weeks, where I was out of country the whole time.
And any trip for me is long because I'm so far from bringing it.
1 week.
1 week.
I mean,
Yeah, probably a week and a half or so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had 32 days with 2 days at home.
Yeah.
One time I met my wife at the airport for lunch when I was flying in and then flew right back out.
And how many children do you have?
I have 4 kids.
All right, so he's managed to be home a little bit.
Not more than 10 seconds each trip.
Just a couple of minutes. Just a couple of minutes.
The acceptable boundaries were very, very,
Yeah.
we can go anywhere where you want with the questions.
So, one of the things, we were talking about what questions we were going to ask, and what if I don't like public speaking? Can I still be a developer advocate? And I think, Jorge, you had.
I think that you can, unless you have cojones, like the Mexican. We are Mexican, so I am Mexican. And one of the things that I
He's
think
not really, he's from Spain. But I call him the Mexican of the
Because we're the ugly Americans.
I basically look like a Mexican.
You speak Mexican.
I speak Mexican at home, yeah. What was the question?
It was about public speaking. It's right above you.
I was afraid of public speaking, and still I'm afraid of public speaking. And sometimes you are speaking to the public and your legs shake. But still, that's something that you want to overcome or not. So if you want to do it, it's just a matter of training and doing it. It's still, as you see in there, he's been doing this for what, 10 years?
More than that, I was actually a professor and a teaching assistant and all sorts of stuff beforehand, so probably about 17, 18 years I've been public speaking. So that one of the things, we had Katie Miller, she's now at Facebook, she would come with me and she'd see me speak, and it was her first year, and she's like, oh, you're so good, I can never be like you. And I was like, Katie, I could never, she was really great at functional languages. And it was like, as if I sat down and started writing I was like, I can't write like Katie, I'm never going to program. Right? So it's a practice, and you just get good at it, and you learn to turn it on and off.
And a lot of people think when they see us give a talk, like Steve give a talk, that it's the first time he's given that talk. And that's not true. Like, we go around to user groups and practice our talks, then we go to larger user groups, and then we submit talks to conferences after we've given it 10, 15 times, right? And so when you see a talk that's great at a conference, it's not the first time they have given that talk. Like, I think that's a big misconception.
Now for me, whenever I go on the stage, I am nervous. I go there, and then there's no time to be nervous. You have to do the talk, then you go out of the stage, and you're like, hell, was it good or not? And you are nervous again. So that 45 minutes is the only time that you are not nervous.
Oh,
Well-
we did that one.
I was just gonna say, but now I forgot. Because
Okay.
Merrick felt like he needed to talk instead of me.
Ah.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Finally. There you go.
Exactly.
So another thing we talk about a lot, we bitch about a lot, I have to say, is how much coding do we do? And what we're always complaining about is we don't have enough time to really do coding. That's been we complain to our manager that we should have a month off so that we could write more sample apps and things like that. And it's probably the most frustrating part of our job is because we're all in tech because we love this stuff, right? And we want to play with the latest Go or Node.js thing. We want to build super awesome demos, but it's really hard to do that when you're in a hotel room at 2 in the morning and you're trying to get your slides in or call for papers in or answer 20 million emails. So how much coding do you do these days, Steve?
I don't do enough. Actually, that's one of the things that so we can all be really honest here. Do you want us to all be really, really honest here? Because I don't know how, yeah, exactly.
I have no morals, so honesty means nothing to me.
He'll make stuff up all the time. So for me though, so I'm a New York Jew, right? And so we are very emotive and we like to share and talk amongst each other. I've noticed that when Jorge and I argue, which is not even really arguing, but we're like this, how could you even believe that? Merrick is like, please stop. The police are going to come and we're going to get in trouble.
They seem like they will kill each other.
Exactly. So would it be really rude to this mostly Czech audience if I actually engage in that kind of discussion? No?
They're not Czech.
Nobody's going to
Only
stop
three
us.
dogs? They're not Czech.
Okay. So I've actually gone through a period of depression probably for for a very long time, but for the last 3 months I've actually been pretty depressed. We did a very intensive roadshow in the fall, and I was burnt out after the end of that. And I haven't written much code, and that's the part that's bumming me out the most right now, because to be an effective developer evangelist, you actually have to write code. Because I can't go to developers and be like, this is a great experience, or this is a terrible experience, or this is what you usually do with any authority without actually writing code every once in a while. And so when we've been doing a lot of traveling and a lot of speaking and not having, most of you write code, is that right? Are most of you developers? Yes? Thank you. So you know that you guys talk about interrupting your flow and that's just somebody coming and knocking on your cube. I can't get into a flow state ever, basically. And so it becomes very hard to write code. That is what I'm struggling with right now as a developer evangelist, is being able to get back into a period of time where I can be in flow state and write more code.
And I think I think that's part of being an authentic speaker. You need to have experience, and you want to really defend internally the needs of the developer community. And if you're not always giving developers good advice and reasonable, meaningful advice, and you start selling them a bunch of BS that they don't need, you'll ruin your reputation over time, right? And so you really need to have hands-on experience as part of the job.
I think I'm the only one, maybe Graham, but I'm probably the only one that actually can code because I'm writing an internal tool that we are using, and whenever they need some feature there, I am forced to do it, which is awesome because I can code.
But I actually probably have a slightly differing view to the others on coding, because in my previous job, you're always flat out coding all the time. You might work 40 to 50-hour weeks, and because you had to, that was your job. Now, I may not code now as much as I used to, but I'm working on things I'm finding much more enjoyable. And that's more important. So it doesn't matter to me that I don't code all the time and that I'm having these breaks and all things, because that's actually good for me, because most of the time I want to code on something and then I get stuck and I want to think about it for a while. So for me, it's actually a really good balance to be able to just not code so much and have that break doing other stuff.
I agree with Graham. I don't get to code a lot. I coded last week, but like he was saying, when I code, it's on stuff I want to. Like, I don't have anyone telling me what to do. I just get to make up something and work on whatever I want.
Well, that's not. I mean, it has to be somewhat related to what, like, when I was working at LinkedIn, I needed to work on a LinkedIn sample app. When I'm working on OpenShift, I can't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to write an app that does nothing to do with OpenShift.
Yeah, that's
It's got to use OpenShift in some way, which is
Really?
very broad.
No one told me that.
That's why you still like your job so much.
Yeah.
We'll meet after this.
So I think all of us have like little sample apps that we keep iterating on and playing with, and I've got a musical jukebox thing with SoundCloud that I've been working on and trying to get into OpenShift 3, and it's frustrating because you want the back end to run there, and then someone comes out with another great Red Hat mobile, and the Feed Henry guys have this amazing, iPhone app development environment, and you want to play with that too, and you get distracted because it's like a kid in the candy box at Red Hat. There's just so much stuff. And then the call for papers comes for OpenStack Summit. And oh God, I got to try and deploy OpenShift on OpenStack again. It's endless what you get to play with, but it's endless too. So it's a little bit of how deep can you go down the wormhole thing. That's really.
So no one raised their hand when they said they wanted to be a developer. Maybe one person raised their hand.
Somebody in the back.
Yeah, one person said. 2 people maybe. What are the rest of you here for? I mean, I'm serious because I want to know. Like, we can just sit up here in t-shirts. Yeah. But most of you are. What are you here for?
I didn't raise my hand because we used the word evangelist and not advocate.
Okay. So who wants to be? Right. This is a big debate in our community about what's the proper term.
Yes.
I think it's just words. We both do the same job, but some people some people find it offensive and.
No, I think that's different things. It's more about inside out or outside in approach.
No, because I've never seen a company where they have both.
Yeah.
The company usually has developer evangelists, or they have developer advocates, not both. So there's not a dual role. It's just how they, like, Google didn't like the evangelical, like the Christian implications of evangelist, so they went with advocate. Before that, it was always developer evangelist.
But I love telling people on the airplane that I'm an evangelist, and
Especially with his southern accent.
starting conversations after that. Yes, I will have 4 more Jack Daniels and Coke.
So, okay, so who here wants to be a developer evangelist, developer advocate? A few?
We're getting more.
There's more now, yeah?
There's more. It's getting better. All right, it's getting better.
So I
Good
think-
news, we're hiring in APAC.
Yeah. There was only one APAC guy here. I got him baked in the morning.
So the other thing about this, about how much coding do you do, and I think Diane touched on this, is that one of the things that you do need to be as a developer advocate / evangelist is curious, right? You are somebody, I know developers in general like to chase after shiny objects, but you tend to have more of that because you're a bit more comfortable being an inch thick and a mile deep on only 1 or 2 things, right? So you have to be comfortable and looking and like, oh, what's the new thing I can play with, or that's how you learn the new technology.
Well, I put this one. I stuck this next question in. But are there any questions in the audience? Has anybody got
Because
one?
we only have 10 minutes left.
10 minutes left. Okay. There you go. Go for it. There you go.
I was curious, you said that you were both a community manager and a developer advocate. What is that duality like? Because I
Oh,
think
it's
there's
a
some
lot of.
confusion in the overlap.
It's a lot of fun, actually. I still get to do all the developer evangelists, do the calls for papers, go out there and advocate for people to use OpenShift. But I also have a role in this specific business unit of being the person, the community manager, who connects with all the other open source projects that we upstream in. So I get to sit on Kubernetes management, community management calls. I get to go to OpenStack and try and connect with all the people there, and coerce people into doing heat templates for me. And I just basically have to do all of that, plus doing the recruitment and trying to get people to contribute code back. I run the OpenShift Commons, which is our community hub, so trying to get organizations and everybody. So
And how many companies do we have in it?
we have now 177 companies in it. We have 35 companies that have organizations that have contributed code to OpenShift, and so the Commons model is a little slightly different. So basically, I do 2 jobs. Grant?
Good.
Grant?
You need a couple more to stay busy.
Not really.
So I remember the thing I wanted to say, and it's related to what Grant said, all the things that we do. We all do those, but we don't all do them all equally well. So when he went through that list, don't think, like public speaking, Grant hates it and doesn't want to do it as much anymore, right? But he'll have to do a little. You can do a mixture, but you'll have to do all those tasks. You don't have to do them all equally well. That's all, okay? Graham loves writing blog posts, thank goodness. I hate writing. So we'll be doing both of those tasks, but Graham will do more writing and I'll do more speaking.
And I'll trade going to one conference for Grant writing a blog post. So you'll see us swap back and forth. It's like, if he'll write that blog post, I'll do that speaking at that conference. And so he gets to stay home.
You gotta,
How do the follow-ups the people who meet? Whom do you meet?
so the way I follow up with the people I meet is I say, you email me, otherwise I'm never going to email you.
It's really hard. That's the hardest part for me is you meet people because you're giving talks and they come up and talk to you, and then you see them 2 years later and they come up like you remember everything about the conversation, and you don't. And that's what makes me feel the worst, right? Because there's just no way. We meet thousands and thousands of people a year and actually have like 5-10 minute conversations with them, but we don't remember, or I don't anyway.
I stopped taking cards. I don't take them anymore. And if they say, oh, well, I'd really like to do blah, blah, could you do blah, blah, blah? I was like, okay, here's my card. If you're really interested enough, I'll say contact me. And if they never contact me, which 99% of the people never do, then I'm off the hook. I don't want that on my soul to have to not contact them.
So I have a slightly different opinion of that, because as the community manager, I have to try and connect you and get you inspired to work on our project or work with our project or do something with us. So I tend to be the one that does take your card, and you will get an email back from me. You join the Commons, you can get on our mailing list, try and coerce you into giving a briefing or becoming what we called before an accelerator, which is basically an external evangelist for OpenShift. So there's lots of different ways we all work with the external community. But yes, probably half of you will come up to me in a conference, and next time I'm in Brno, and I'm really good at making that face of like, oh yeah, I know who you are.
I think one of the weirdest moments in my life, I'd been doing this for a year, and I was at Java 1 or some conference, and somebody came up to me and was like, oh, I finally get to meet you in person. I've always wanted to meet you. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And I called my wife and told her I was famous, right? But people read our blog posts and stuff, and it's kind of a weird feeling when you first get into it, and it's just odd.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, yeah, there was another question here.
Okay. The question is, how do you deal with different dependencies? Because it's a big topic. Like you are used to speak globally, let's say, or like, and you work across the planet, but some people have problems with space or whatever else. Do you do anything special with
He can't do it. So he always talk loud.
What?
As you can see.
I didn't hear what the question was, sorry.
Yeah, basically you have different mentalities across the globe and diversity.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
adapt somehow.
Yeah.
Or do you do it?
I do. So, like, I talk a lot in Asia. I do. So,
We let him go there.
yeah, and Asia is I actually will tend to speak more like this when I go to Asia, because their English is not as good, but it's way better than my ability to speak Chinese or Malaysian. So I will, but it took me years to get that cadence down, and I'll do it sometimes. You guys all speak English relatively well, but if I go to another European country when I know it's mostly non-English speakers, I'll slow down as well. So it also helps to teach kids, right? Like I do coding events with kids on the weekends too, and there you also learn to change your cadence. You just have to it's practice. The same way like, oh, I'm in a functional language, now I'm in SQL. Now I'm in a procedural language, right? You need different mindsets. It's the same skill, just like that.
But the problem is that sometimes you don't know. So you go the first time to somewhere, but you don't know what's their habits. So I've been, for example, in a country, in a Nordic country, where I didn't know that they have like this sense of privacy. So I'm from really, I like to talk with the guys, so I'm going out, having some beers, and I couldn't. But I tried for the first week until somebody told me, don't do this, you are invading his private space. So sometimes you don't know, and you'll screw it up.
I have a question. Do you measure adoption as part of your role as Developer Evangelist advocate or not? And how do you do it?
When we first started OpenShift, our job was to get developers using the platform, and so we did measure it then. But once we got to like 500,000, we stopped, right? So we don't measure that as effectiveness of our team. The way we're measured now is based on the amount of content that we create and the survey forms that you guys fill out at conferences to let us know if the talk was good or not. Because to have a good conference talk, it's not just the technical information. Like, people want to be entertained, right? Even at a conference, like, they like talks that entertain them because they don't remember anything you say except for one or two things. But they'll remember that it was good talk. Oh, and that guy worked at Red Hat. I should check it out.
So before we, and I want Lucy to stand up. Lucy is our HR hiring person here. And so you can check in with her. Yeah. All right. She's our advocate.
I will leave some cards here on the desk. They're not my cards because I already went over them, but for my colleague, and you can just write your CV, send your CV, and we will definitely come back to you for the role. Okay?
There's also a Dev Evangelist manifesto that we wrote. So we actually came out of our document as a team that I then put up in a Git. It's an ASCII doc up in, I forget, is it in our GitHub repo or my GitHub repo? It's a manifesto that talks through a lot of the things we did. Like, this was not enough time to talk through a lot of stuff. Like, what's a good company to work for? What are good interview questions? What's your roles? What should you expect? What should you be expecting to produce? We didn't talk, we just barely touched the surface of being a developer. It's a relatively new field, too. And so you get into a lot of confusions in a lot of different companies about what's a good developer evangelist, what's their role. Yeah.
But that's also a big benefit, right? Because a lot of companies are starting to hire this position, which makes it a very sought-after position. Like, we honestly get job offers at least once a week, I would say.
That's a bad week.
Unless you live in Australia, they don't contact you at all.
Yeah.
Actually, but we live in North America, so that, I mean, I'm in the Bay Area. And Ryan, so probably Ryan and myself probably get the most because we're already there. Like, every startup now
I'm in
wants one.
Vancouver, BC, and it's like, you know, LinkedIn I hate because you just, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't live here. But,
You won't get paid as much as an engineer, maybe. Certainly in the beginning. If you're worried about compensation, in the beginning, depending on the company, they will not see you as valuable as an engineer.
those are some of the things you need to suss out and figure out when you're interviewing too, is to really ask them, I'm out of time.
Is there any sessions after this though in this
There's no
room?
sessions afterwards.
there's
There's
the
one
prize
upstairs.
thing.
Okay.
Oh, the prize thing is now?
Oh, okay.
What's more important, us or prizes?
Prizes,
We've got plenty of t-shirts and scarves still.
All right, thank you very much.
T-shirts and stickers as well.
No monkey suits required, but they're optional. All right.
Yeah, we stayed until 3:30, something like that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Well done. We picture quite a bit. Act to act. All right, talk to him.
Increíble, ¿qué? Esto es, pero bueno, poco a poco, o sea, es una de las cosas que dices, ¿sabes qué quieres hacer en la vida? Gustar. Y yo, a mí me gusta, por ejemplo, escribir blogs, pero
En 5 o 6 idiomas diferentes.
bueno, pero hablar, mira, Steve habla mucho, escribe poco, otros...
No, es así, yo había trabajado cuando yo hago esto, it was worth it,
Hace años.
So how is the weather right now there?
Yes, y después pretty much always supercast and the rains a lot, I guess. Still better than this.
We've been there actually in November.
Eso, y eso me ha jodido muchísimo.
I'm a bit like
You can tile them all together like this.
It's
it's like good weather year round.
Yeah.
Me da totalmente igual.
But the people are really friendly.
Lo que
Yeah,
hago,
I really like it about the city
hablo con las
here.
personas. Si va a caminar, algo así. Si va a pasar esta
Pero bueno, es cuestión de que un día veas la oportunidad.
Exacto.
Yo nunca había pensado entrar en este equipo y de repente un día en una charla alguien dijo, está la posición abierta, y dices, joder, ¿y por qué no?
Sí, tío, pero al final,
Yeah,
yo,
sounds good.
si tú lo vas a pensar, yo tengo más o menos todas las características. Ya llevo el 76%.
Sí, claro, yo viajaba
Super
mucho.
amazing.
Coño, tú tenías una vida muy triste, creo, porque te ibas a
That's the
viajar por